Okay, so this is gonna be a sort of a presentation or a walkthrough of sort of the software engineering program at Linköping University, or in Swedish, civilingenjörsprogrammet i mjukvaruteknik. So just wanted to make this video so that this is sort of the video that I wished someone had made when I started or was about to start, so that you can, and so I'm sort of want to make a video explaining or do a sort of a walkthrough of the program. Anyhow, so first let's answer the question, who am I? So I am about to start my 5th year at Linköping University studying mjukvaruteknik, and yeah, so that's the only thing you actually really need to know about me. So some disclaimers to begin with. The university has not sort of sponsored me, or doesn't know that I'm making this video. I'm making this video on my own accord, just because I think this is something that should be out there. Yeah, so this is all my opinions and my sort of from my perspective and so on. So yeah. Anyhow, right. So let's start off with sort of the difference between computer engineering and software engineering. So these two programs, if you are more interested in hardware, then you can as I understand it, computer engineering, or in Swedish datateknik, focus more on hardware compared to software engineering, where we focus more on software, or in Swedish mjukvaruteknik. This is sort of I know some people who started at datateknik because it's harder to get into. Actually, what they wanted, what we were more interested in, was software engineering, but due to some weird naming convention at some universities, software engineering is computer engineering and so on. But at LiU, computer engineers focus more on hardware, software engineers more at software. But that's quite important to understand. And you also before like 10 years ago or so, 15 years ago, no, not 15 years, but maybe 8 years ago, or something like that, software engineering used to be called computer science. Yeah, so that's good to know. Anyhow, so what you will end up learning is, of course, programming and computer science theory and a bunch of maths and so on. And if you want more of a deep dive, there is a really good YouTube video, The Map of Computer Science, which does sort of a walkthrough of the, different parts. But this is sort of the main focus. And something that you have to think about is quite a lot of maths. But it's a very specific type of maths, I would say. And also, of course, you will end up doing quite a lot of programming, and all of these will sort of blend together after a while. Anyhow, so okay, if you want to find information about the course, I recommend you go to the specific course. They have a page for information, and check out the syllabus, which tells you a bunch of information and actually tells you what you will learn in that course. So if that course sounds interesting, then check that page out. You can also look up statistics about each course on a different page. And I have here statistics for the exam in discrete mathematics. This is one of the first math courses that you take. And yeah, you can and all the links will be in the description as well. Anyhow, so let's do a simple walkthrough of some of the courses. So period 0. So this is the first semester from 21, and period 0 is simply the period where you have it's sort of the intro period, right? So you will only have 2 courses, and you will start with discrete mathematics and functional programming and imperative programming, which is a simple, well, not simple, but it's a Python course where you learn sort of the intros to programming and so. And if you don't know what Python is, it's a very it's a programming language that's quite easy to work with and so on. So it's a very nice intro to programming, and yeah, we will then after a couple of weeks you will start the actual period. This is period 1, where also everyone else at university also starts. And then you have your discrete math course, or you continue with the same discrete math course. You have professionalism for engineers, which is a course where you learn more. It's more about like some more soft skills, I would say. You will have several of these. Some of them will have a line crossed over. This is just because they switch them around, so the courses will be sometimes for year 2 and year 3, they switch them around somewhat. Anyhow, you will also continue with your functional and imperative programming course. And then you also have the perspective course, which is a sort of, you will have a bunch of lectures in period 1, where they sort of do a walkthrough, like might have one lecture in networking, and then you have one in operating systems or so, right? But you get sort of the intro course from a bunch of different subjects, sort of, in order to get sort of a feeling of some of the different subjects. And in period 2, you will also have another, or you will continue with some more professionalism. You will have those courses every year up to year 3. But it's a very small course. Anyway, then you have logic, which is more mathematical. It's sort of continuation of somewhat from discrete maths, but it's more computational thinking, I would say. But it's logic, so you sort of derive from some state, sort of derive the conclusion and so on. But it's more. It will feel quite a lot like a math course to some degree. Anyway, then you have your functional imperative programming part 2, which is still in Python, and then you will also have an exam in that course, if I remember correctly. And yeah, but anyhow, then you also continue with the perspective course. So the continuation part in the perspective course contains a project where I remember we wrote a Python program to play StarCraft, and yeah, so you will but yeah, there are a bunch of different, I think there is like a robotics project as well and so on, but there are a bunch of projects. Anyhow, and also for clarification, if you see here at the credits, if there is a star, that means that it sort of continues over a period. So that's maybe good to know. Anyhow, so then for the spring, in semester 2, you will have a object-oriented programming course in Java. You will have a project course where you create a mobile app, where you also write a backend using Python. So you have to do some front-end work and some back-end work, and sort of get the basics of that. And here we also see sort of what I talked about earlier, like the moving around the professionalism course. So we can see that the actual course that they had that year was part 6, but previously it was part 2 and part 4 and so on. So they just moved them around. Anyhow, then you have the computer hardware and architecture, Y. So the Y is just because you're taking it together with the physics majors, so that's why there is a Y. But the course is in computer hardware and architecture, and understanding like how the CPU works, and like understanding you will write some assembly code and so on, and understand some basics of hardware. And then for the next period 2, you will continue with your project, and you will also have then a course in formal languages and automata theory, and that is a course that is more it is in turning machines and so on, but in the beginning it will be a bit confusing why you're learning this stuff, but what it is actually sort of some of the basics for more computational thinking. But yeah, it's a very good course. Anyhow, and then you have some more professionalism for engineers, and you will also continue with the computer hardware and architecture. So that was all of the courses for year 1. Then in year 2 we'll just go over sort of the main sort of topics for 2 and 3. In year 2 you will do a lot of maths. You will have data structures and algorithms. You will write an operating system. You will do some networking. And in year 3 everything starts sort of merge together. You will take some more AI. You'll take some AI courses. You'll take some courses on signals, and you also have your bachelor's project. But these are sort of the main subjects that you sort of cover in year 2 and 3. And the maths is calculus and linear algebra mainly. Then for your masters, you can. I have been studying the programming algorithms masters, but there is also AI and machine learning, industrial economics, international software engineering. International software engineering is connected to like exchange project with China, but due to the pandemic, that has been sort of. I haven't heard too much about it in the last couple of years. Of course, you have programming algorithms that I'm taking. You have game programming or game development. You have large-scale software development. You have secure systems or computer security. So you can read more in depth about them at this link. The link will be in the description. But sort of short about programming and algorithms masters. It's more of a classic computer science field, focusing on, of course, algorithms, but also like computation and sort of optimization and that kind of stuff. But yeah, recommend to read this link. I'll read the information here. Anyhow, so how does a course work? You have a lecture, of course, in all the courses usually, where sort of the professor stands and explains things at a whiteboard or a PowerPoint. You will have lessons in some courses, mainly math courses, where you have time to sort of practice and do problems and ask the teacher a bunch of questions if you have. You have labs, so these are mainly computer labs, where in difference from like a chemistry lab, so you usually don't have a report. It's actually more of like development time, where you will work on like a software problem or an exercise that you have been given in the course, and yeah, you just work on the problem. And there is usually lab assistants there to sort of help you out and explain how to do stuff and so on. Then you have, of course, exams. Some exams will be in the writing code on a computer. Like the intro Python course has an exam that is like you write Python code. But some exams will be on paper, where you have to write, like a normal exam. And then, of course, you might, in some courses, write reports, and that's like any reports in, any other course. So, okay, where on campus will you be? So you will mainly be at C-huset, A-huset, and a lot of parties at Korallen, and you can buy books there, and B-huset. So the B house is the house where you have all of your computer labs and so on, and the A and C house is more lectures and lessons and that kind of stuff. Then you have Terra, which is where you usually have your exams and so on. And yeah, that is basically it, as a very sort of basic walkthrough of all of the things that you need to know. Yeah, hopefully this was somewhat useful, and yeah,